Hey there, folks. Let's talk about our brains, those mushy things in our heads that sometimes seem to have a mind of their own. We like to think we're in control, making rational choices every day. But guess what? Our brains are masters of deception. They play these sneaky tricks on us called cognitive biases that can really mess with our decision-making. Think about it. Have you ever bought something just because it was on sale, even if you didn't really need it? That's your brain on bias. Or how about that time you were absolutely certain you were right about something, even when everyone else disagreed? Yeah, that might have been a cognitive bias too. These biases are like mental shortcuts, ways for our brains to save energy by simplifying complex information. But sometimes these shortcuts lead us down the wrong path, making us believe things that aren't true or make decisions that aren't in our best interest. Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. But here's the good news. By understanding these biases, we can start to recognize them in ourselves and make more informed choices. So let's dive in and expose some of these tricky little brain gremlins, shall we? Now, these cognitive biases, they're like optical illusions, but for our thoughts. They're not always bad. Sometimes they help us make quick decisions in a pinch, but other times they can lead to some seriously flawed thinking. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you see a stick that looks like a snake. Your brain, trying to keep you safe, might jump to the conclusion that it's a dangerous reptile. Better safe than sorry, right? But in reality, it's just a harmless stick. That's kind of how cognitive biases work. Our brains take shortcuts, relying on assumptions and past experiences to make sense of the world around us. And sometimes those shortcuts lead to misinterpretations and bad decisions. There are tons of different cognitive biases out there, but let's focus on two of the big ones: confirmation bias and the anchoring effect. These two troublemakers are masters of manipulation, influencing our thoughts and actions in ways we might not even realize. So buckle up, because we're about to expose their sneaky tactics. First up, let's talk about confirmation bias, the king of self-deception. This sneaky bias is all about seeking out information that confirms what we already believe, even if it's wrong. Think of it like this. Imagine you're a die-hard fan of a certain sports team, let's say the New York Jets, for example. You love the Jets, you believe in the Jets, even when they're losing miserably, which, let's be honest, is quite often. Now imagine you stumble across an article praising the Jets' new quarterback, while another article criticizes their defense. Which article are you more likely to read? You guessed it, the one praising the quarterback. That's confirmation bias in action. We tend to favor information that aligns with our existing beliefs and ignore evidence that contradicts them. It's like surrounding yourself with a chorus of yes men who only tell you what you want to hear. This bias can affect everything from our political views to our opinions on climate change. It's why it's so hard to have a rational conversation with someone who's already made up their mind about something. They're trapped in a bubble of their own making, selectively filtering out any information that challenges their worldview. Now, let's move on to the anchoring effect, another master manipulator in our brains. This bias is all about the power of first impressions. It's the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, even if it's completely irrelevant. Imagine you're shopping for a used car. Good luck with that. You walk onto the lot, and the first car the salesperson shows you is a real clunker. It's overpriced, dented, and smells faintly of wet dog. But the salesperson, being a master of the anchoring effect, uses this clunker to their advantage. They show you a series of slightly less terrible cars, but compared to that first clunker, they seem fantastic. Suddenly, you're willing to pay more for a car that's still not that great, all because that initial anchor, the terrible car, skewed your perception. The anchoring effect can be found everywhere, from salary negotiations to online shopping. It's why retailers often show you the original price of an item crossed out next to the sale price. That original price serves as an anchor, making the sale price seem like a steal, even if it's still more than you want to pay.